start there with the panel. Fox News contributor Mark Thiessen, former Republican National Committee Communications Director Douglas Heye, and Democratic strategist Adrian Elrod. Okay, Mark, digesting this and what it means. There's a lot of reaction on Capitol Hill, but I'm not sure they fully get it.
Yeah, so it does, as you say, it doesn't legalize it, but it does destigmatize it, and it also creates incentives for production and distribution because it takes away the tax and banking disadvantages that marijuana production has. I think the idea of reducing the classification of marijuana at a time when the THC levels have gone up between 400 and 800% is kind of contradictory, and I think the last thing we want to do is continue to destigmatize marijuana. We're trying to reindustrialize the country. You can't operate machinery when you're high. We've got education levels, the national test scores are going down dramatically. You don't want to encourage people using marijuana. It's contrary to what Trump is trying to do.
You know, Senator Chuck Schumer, Adrian, was saying this is not, legalizing, because they see that as a powerful political issue.
Sure.
With young people especially.
Yep.
There's a lot of testing for medical that this opens the door to.
Yeah, look, I mean, you may be shocked to hear this, Brett, but I'm going to give President Trump credit for this. This is something that President Biden said he would do, and he did not. It's going to provide a lot of relief, as you mentioned, to small businesses. And it's something that is our country is trending in this direction. I think 38 states right now allow for medical marijuana. So this is something that feels like a significant majority of people in this country want this, but also it's trending in that direction. So I think it's a smart move, and I think there are some people who want to see it go a little bit further beyond medical marijuana, but this is certainly a step in the right direction.
That could be led to the states, left to the states, Doug, possibly.
Yeah, and look, I think the challenge here for President Trump is there's a lot of mixed messages. So when we've heard Donald Trump talk about what he's doing in Venezuela, I'm stopping the drugs. And so voters are now hearing him say, well, but maybe somewhat different with marijuana. And there has been a destigmatizing of it, and there have been real costs with that. I had lunch today with a friend whose brother is a cop in Chester County, Pennsylvania, and she told me what her brother tells her is the #1 drug that they have the biggest issue with isn't fentanyl, isn't cocaine, isn't anything like that. It's marijuana. And we see that certainly on the streets in D.C. And I say that, I understand Donald Trump hasn't decriminalized this for recreational use, but I smelled pot about 3 blocks from here about 40 minutes ago. And this town is awash with marijuana smoke. New York City is, and more cities are dealing with that as well. It's a real problem, and it goes to a mixed message for Trump here.
Okay, speaking of messaging, there is this naming of the Kennedy Center. The Kennedy Center board, appointed by President Trump, voted to name it the Trump Kennedy Center. Take a listen.
Then you have a big event on Friday at the Trump Kennedy Center. At the Kennedy Center. I was surprised by it. I was honored by it. We're saving the building. We saved the building. The building was in such bad shape, both physically, financially, and every other way.
We'll take a look at it for sure and see where that goes. But obviously, the president is heavily invested in trying to make some of these monuments around Washington, D.C., make this a better place to live.
The White House Press Secretary, Mark, saying that she reported that the most successful people on the board voted unanimously. Obviously, there's a lot of pushback already on Capitol Hill. Where do you think this goes?
Yeah, John Thune loved answering your questions.
No, he really did.
He was really excited
really
to take this issue on. I mean, look, if you think about this, I write my columns at the end of the year every year, the 10 best things that Donald Trump did, and I can't even contain it to 10. If you think about it, he got the Abbey Gate bomber in 6 weeks. Biden couldn't get him in 3 weeks. He obliterated the Iranian nuclear program. He got NATO to agree to 5% of GDP on defense. He's secured the border. He's got trade deals. I mean, the list goes on and on. Those are serious accomplishments. That's what Trump should be pushing in the media right now, looking back at a year that's one of the most extraordinary years of any president starting a second term. And instead, we're talking about naming something very unserious, which is naming the Kennedy Center after him.
Sometimes I think there's a purpose behind it, that we look at the shiny thing and focus on it so that there's all kinds of other things happening.
I'm looking for that purpose.
But what do you make of it, Adrian?
Look, first of all, I'm sort of like, what took him so long to do this? I'm surprised he didn't do this on day 2 or day 3. I mean, I guess we'll see what the Senate obviously has to go through a larger approval process. So we'll see, what I saw Majority Leader Thune try to sort of finesse his answer on that. But look, if you are, Brett, I think the bigger picture here is if you are the average American voter who is struggling economically, who is trying to figure out how to put food on the table, how to buy holiday gifts for their children, just trying to make ends meet, and you're seeing Donald Trump tear down the East Wing, rebuild it with tech billionaire money, renaming buildings after him. They're not
Taxpayers
saying-
aren't paying for that.
Yeah, tech.
Well, no, I understand that,
money.
but tech billionaires are paying for that, and that this is
good.
money that could arguably go to
Victory.
helping people in America who are struggling right now. You're just seeing a president whose priorities are not focused on the American people and the issues that they're facing every single day, and I think that's the challenge for him.
I mean, we'll digest all of the Trump Kennedy Center. I mean, I don't think the Trump Lincoln Memorial is happening anytime soon. But here is Senator Thune on the economic speech last night.
So when you look at those polls, you say to those constituents, hold on?
Well, I think, yes. I mean, obviously, it takes a little bit of patience. These things take, there's a lag always when you move major legislation, consequential legislation like this for the American people to start to feel it.
What'd you make, Doug, what Senator Thune said about what's coming?
I think that's part of what the economic message from Republicans should be. And often Donald Trump, you raised this earlier about the shiny object. Donald Trump is often a matador, and he wears a red cape, and we all follow it. Today it's the Kennedy Center. Tomorrow we don't know what it's going to be. But the message from this White House should be today and always, here's what we're doing to make things more affordable for you. And any day that they're not doing that, and I say this as Donald Trump, somebody who did a very successful campaign event at a McDonald's. We need more of that guy communicating than what we saw last night. I don't understand what their strategic imperative was last night.
And quickly, Mark, hearing Senator Thune go down the numbers on the healthcare stuff, it is interesting when you break down who's affected here and what that looks like.
So actually, he said there's 7% of people who are getting Obamacare subsidies, but the people who are at above 400% of the federal poverty line is about 7% of that. So it's a very small number of people who are affected by this. The Obamacare subsidies aren't going anywhere. It's the upsell under the Biden Affordable Care Act.
Many more days to talk about this. Panel, thanks.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.